Are you a clinic manager or healthcare provider who wants to build your network and refresh your professional connections so that you can start your next career move or maybe start and build your business? You have heard that LinkedIn is the place to grow your career and your professional presence, but you're not sure about what is the correct etiquette and the best practices for your LinkedIn profile. If you are serious about having a fully optimized LinkedIn profile, then stay tuned. Janice Porter, LinkedIn networking expert, is my guest on this episode of Practice Management Nuggets for your healthcare practice. Welcome to Practice Management Nuggets, practical privacy tips and practice management tips for you to help you start, grow, or improve your business and your healthcare career. If you are a clinic manager, a team lead, a healthcare provider, or a practice owner, these practical tips will save you time and money. My name is Jean Eaton, your practice management mentor and practical privacy coach with Information Managers. And I help you manage the pink elephant in the room. Today, my guest is Janice Porter. Janice knows the essentials to using LinkedIn that will make a big difference to improving your visibility and your credibility. This will help you with your next job move or to build authority and presence for your business. Let me introduce you to Janice Porter. Good morning, Janice. How are you today?
I'm great, Jean. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm delighted that you're here because the LinkedIn profile is such an important part about moving your professional career. You want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is well established before you are making the move to another job or building that business.
People are looking all the time, so I totally agree. You do have to show yourself as the professional that you want to be.
So I want to take this opportunity to give you a proper introduction, Janice.
Thank you.
Janice is known as a master communicator, and her passion is specializing in working and teaching professionals online and offline networking and marketing strategies for attracting, developing, nurturing, and retaining relationships that enhance business growth and profitability. Janice believes that anyone in business is looking for a new position needs to have a professional LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is a powerful, underutilized online profile that attracts new patients, new clients, new referral partners, and being found by recruiters. Connecting like-minded people is one of her innate gifts because she cares and deeply values each person in her network. It is with deep insight and a steadfast belief in relationship marketing that Janice makes introductions. Connecting like-minded people is one of her innate gifts because she cares and deeply values for each person in her network. Janice, I'm delighted to have you as a guest on Practice Management Nuggets.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and to share some information with your audience, and hopefully it will be something they can take away and dig in.
Thank you. So, Janice, I know a little bit about your background, but perhaps you can share with us about how did you get into that LinkedIn networking training world?
Oh, great question. So my background in my first life, before I was an entrepreneur and business owner, I was a teacher. I taught school, and I was always a teacher from when I was a little kid. So I taught school for 14 years, and then I became a corporate trainer, which was like the same thing, really, teaching children, teaching adults. There's not that much difference, but I mean, there is in some aspects, but there's a child that you have in your classroom. There's the same type of child in the adult training world as well. It's quite interesting. Anyway, I was introduced to LinkedIn in the early days, and I had no idea what it was. And a friend of mine said, well, you should talk to this guy, Clarence. Clarence will share with you how it works. And Clarence was a young man who was learning and teaching people online. He was a marketer who grasped LinkedIn very quickly, and he taught me a lot. And from there, I found that that was a social media platform that I could actually relate to. It was business. It wasn't, what did I have for dinner last night? And so for me, I could relate right away. It was quite left brain. It was very organized, and it worked for me. So I started to dig in a little bit more and learn and followed a few more of the early LinkedIn trainers, and found that I started to share it with people, what I learned. And then the light bulb went on that I could actually teach this, which would take me back to teaching, which I love. So that's kind of how it started about, I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe.
Excellent. And you're in Vancouver now, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So LinkedIn is a great platform. I've been on LinkedIn for a long time, and networking is really important to be able to do all the time. So you want to be able to make sure that people can find you if they are looking for you. They've met you at the clinic. They want to connect with you. It's a great way to keep informed about what's happening in your business. So if you're connected with other people on LinkedIn who like the same things that you like, they're going to share education opportunities, business opportunities, career growth opportunities, all sorts of personal development and learning opportunities, and just helps keep you current in your career path. So you find out what's happening in healthcare generally in Canada and across the world. And it's a great way to be able to keep in touch with people. You don't always have to be putting yourself out there for a new job or a new business, but being able to develop those relationships is a great thing that networking on LinkedIn can do that no other social media platform can do.
It's true. It's, it's business to business, but it's also business professional to business professional. And so it's treated that way. And I know that for most of the people in your audience, they're not going to necessarily work out of Canada or even out of North America, perhaps. However, some of them may, and some of them may gain some celebrity or authority in areas that you never know, right? And it's easy to connect with people through LinkedIn because LinkedIn messages get seen, whereas an email to some total stranger may not. So that's where the communication piece is really valuable.
Right. And I get really excited, and I really, really, really want to encourage the clinic managers, the team leads, and the healthcare providers to build a profile on LinkedIn, because that is where people are going to find you. And if you've got a professional profile on LinkedIn, then when I'm looking for somebody to connect with or somebody to share information about, or to be able to help other people to connect and network with you to, grow your professional career or as a person or a volunteer opportunity, then LinkedIn's a place that I go first to be able to get more information, to share information about. So it's a really useful tool. And even if you're not looking for a new job today, building that profile on LinkedIn is such an important step that you can take.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You never know. People are watching all the time, right?
Right. And if you want to be able to follow somebody that you met at a conference, a presenter, or maybe somebody else that you sat beside, but want to keep in touch with, LinkedIn's a great place to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Janice, I want to ask you about what is your number one tip? So I always talk about the pink elephant in the room. It's that one thing that we know we should do, but we don't always get around to doing it. So what would be your number one tip to help clinic managers and team leads and healthcare providers manage that pink elephant in the room? What do they need to know about networking and connections in LinkedIn?
Well, I think actually, Jean, it all starts with having a fully optimized profile, because people are looking all the time. People are searching for you. And I don't know if you know this, but if I were to search on Google and put your name in, LinkedIn is so highly indexed by Google that most often your LinkedIn profile will come up quite high in the search. And it better be a good one, because that's going to be the first impression that people make when they come to LinkedIn, is when they see your profile. And so it's important. There's many steps to making it a good profile, but there's a few things that will create a good first impression, which I'm going to share with your audience. Because if you go out to connect with people and network with people on LinkedIn and you don't have a good profile, what's that first impression going to be like? You know, they're going to see, well, if you don't finish this piece or you don't do that properly, do I want to have you work with me on such and such or whatever? So that's the starting point, and I think the number one thing.
Right. This is a great opportunity for people to manage that first impression that people have about them. So taking the time now to be able to cultivate that professional profile on LinkedIn is a great first step that you can take right away.
I love working with people on building their profile because it's like, it's about telling their story in a way that is interesting and draws people in. And it's not just your resume cut and pasted onto LinkedIn, which is a bit of a misnomer and also a big mistake that people make.
Okay. Janice, I'm really excited to have you share some tips with us. So I'm going to step back into the background and I'm going to give you the opportunity to share some slides and your tips with us about managing your profile on LinkedIn.
Awesome. I'm ready to do that. So here we go. So I just like to start with this slide that says, today, if you're a business professional and don't have a LinkedIn profile, people are going to wonder how legitimate you are. So it really is kind of expected things these days. And these are some things, some reasons why LinkedIn can be used: to build alliances and referral partnerships, to prospect and generate qualified leads, to build and maintain relationships, and to be seen as an authority. And of course, it was launched in 2003, which is a long time ago. And now there are like over 700 million people on LinkedIn. So you have, the world is your oyster, and there are a lot of people watching. So it's something to realize. And there's a couple of things I want to share with you about your first impression. The first thing is to be authentic, and that starts with your headshot. And as a business professional, you need to look like a business professional. And having a photo, a professional photo, can improve your LinkedIn presence by over 93%. I always tell people whose profiles I'm working on that if they're looking to connect with people and that person doesn't even show a photo, don't even bother, because if they haven't taken time to add a photo to their profile, that's not a great first impression. Now, one thing about that though is some people change their privacy settings so that certain people can't see their photo, which to me doesn't make sense. And sometimes they may not know they're doing that. So keep that in mind also. And the second step is to create an optimized headline. And most people, the headline is the piece directly under your name. And so most people will only read a headline, and that's their first impression. This is your headline right under your name. And your headline needs to tell people who you work with and who you help. So LinkedIn trainer, relationship marketing specialist, networking coach. I also have added podcast host and possibly a benefit statement, increasing qualified leads online and nurturing them into sales offline. Now, for clinic owners and healthcare managers and professionals, you don't want to say Janice Porter, manager at ABC Clinic. The name of your clinic or the name of your business will be in the work experience section below. What you want to do here is really show people who you help or who you work with, because people are interested not in you, they're interested in what they can, how you can help them solve their problems and so on. So it might be specifically that your clinic works with a group of people or a certain type of illness, but I definitely, when I work with people, I work with them in bringing out exactly what needs to be here, because you only have 120 characters here. So you want it to make sense and speak to the target audience that you want to attract.
Janice, would it be appropriate to have in that statement maybe something like making sure that you're nurturing patient relationships, or having an efficient healthcare practice, or if you're in the HR side of things, nurturing your employees in your organization?
Yeah, showing employees that we care and appreciate the work that they do, that kind of thing. Absolutely. that would make sense. Okay, so this is a small business owner sample. So, but it shows you a first impression. This is someone who came to me for LinkedIn training, and this is what her profile looked like. This, yes, she has a picture, but is that appropriate on LinkedIn? Actually, no, it's not a business headshot. So as cute as it is, it's not appropriate on LinkedIn. There's an example of what I talked about, owner at. We don't need to say that. What we need to do is be more specific. She has the default banner or background. And if I just go back to this, notice that mine was just, it's the color of my website. I've added my benefit statement and my tagline, and I put my website so it's easy for people to find me. All right, so that's, it can be something that relates, something that isn't too commercial. So maybe it has your logo on it, maybe it has your website on it, and it's just something that reflects your industry. Yeah, so the next thing is what we did with Sandy's headline and first impression. So we used something that spoke to her industry. She just put her website on there. I can still see somebody in this picture, so it's not a completely professional headshot, but it's definitely better than it was. You want to see the sparkle in someone's eyes. You want it to be close up enough that it makes sense. Here's what we changed this to: retail gift consultant, corporate gifts. That exactly says what she does, helping business professionals choose the perfect gift for their clients. Much better first impression than in the last slide. The third thing about being on LinkedIn, and this is once you have your website completely and fully optimized, because, and we'll go back to say that after this, after the top portion is done, the next most important piece is the about or summary section. And that's where we get to really put some personality in there. It is not the resume dumped into LinkedIn. We have to show some story there that makes sense, that speaks to your audience. So then it's about being visible. And what does that mean? It means being active on LinkedIn, on your homepage, which is the news feed that you see every day. And I'm not saying that you have to be on it every day, but if you want to build some visibility, which leads to credibility, then you need to have some kind of a system, whether it's you or whether it's an assistant posting things for you. Whatever you do, whether it's once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, every day, you need to be consistent. And you need to share things that that make sense to your audience, that show your authority in what you do. It might be an article that you've written. It might be an article you just read. It doesn't have to be your work every single time, but things that you find useful to your audience. Number 4 is to be personal. And being personal means when you make a connection with somebody that you actually add a note. Now this has changed a little bit recently. So when you click the connect button on somebody's profile, it now says immediately that the connection request has gone, but then it gives you the ability to add a personalized note. And I recommend that you do that every single time, because people are more likely to accept invitations that include a personal note. One thing that I suggest when people do that is that they say something like, I really enjoyed meeting you at the ABC conference. Would you be open to connecting here on LinkedIn? Asking a question is gives 60% better chance that they will say yes, believe it or not. But something
I love getting connection requests where somebody has added a note. It
yes.
reminds me where I've met them, what we said that we were going to do. It's a great way to be able to customize that. And I nearly always accept those connection requests. When I get a connection request from somebody that I don't know, I can be very selective about who I choose to connect with.
Exactly. And I do a whole section in my training on how to look at whether you should accept those people that you don't know. And there's times when you should, but or when it's okay to do that, but there's things to look at. And I will say though here about adding this personalized note, when you actually do it on LinkedIn, you'll see at the bottom here, it will say 300. You have 300 characters. Don't send a long note, because a lot of people do not read the first note. They still just use accept, accept, accept. So what becomes more important is the next message once they have accepted. This is an example of another message to send. And then on your phone, on your mobile phone, if you hit the connect button, it doesn't give you that opportunity. So if you do it from your phone, make sure, and it might be 3 dots, or it might be this little triangle. It's different on all different phones, but then it opens it up so that you actually can do a personalized invite. So just be careful of that. And then the last step to making LinkedIn work for you is making new connections. And that, of course, is by doing your own outreach or accepting other people's connection requests. And it's important to start a conversation. And so when I go back to having sent a connection request to somebody and they accept, if they accept, I will see that in my notifications that so-and-so is now a new connection. Then it's up to me to start a conversation. Now I send the first, what I call the thank you message, which is basically, thank you for accepting my connection request. I noticed that blah, 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 or we talked briefly about such and such at the conference. I'd love to know your take on it. Would you be open to a conversation about that? Or more importantly, you could say, I remember us talking about such and such. Here's an article that you might find interesting on the subject. And so you add value by sending them something. Now, you don't have to do that in the first message if you feel that it's not right or it's not comfortable. I work on my gut a lot. And so sometimes I go quicker, sometimes I go slower with people. But what I do find is when I'm networking online, when I'm building those relationships, when I'm having those conversations, I need to ask questions that will engage the person and they will respond. And so you'll get a very quick sense of, number one, if they answer quickly, are they on LinkedIn a lot? Number two, if they don't answer quickly, maybe they don't use LinkedIn as often as you think. Now, I would have looked at their profile to begin with and got a sense of that. I have about 5 different points that I look at to see whether it's worth pursuing the relationship in the first place. If it was cold, if it was somebody I already built some rapport with at an in-person event, which now seems like a long time ago that would have happened, but then I might be more likely to pursue it a little bit further. So building relationships. Oh, and one last thing here is my goal always with building relationships and networking online is to take it offline and to make the relationship more real with a Zoom call, with a coffee date, if that ever happens again, with another meeting of some sort, okay? And then people ask me, is it worth it? Because it can be work, right? Using LinkedIn regularly, but it is worth it if you need to be effective. You need to be consistent and authentic, and it needs to be kind of a part of your routine. Again, it doesn't have to be every day, but if you first and foremost, it's your profile. Secondly, if you can see the value of increasing your increasing your reach to people, then it is worth it. And what I like to do is challenge people to a little bit of the power of 3. Each week, if you can connect with 3 new people, comment on 3 things on your newsfeed, and share a status update of your own 3 times a week, maybe through yourself or through an assistant or whatever that does it for you, a social media person that does it for you, then you will start to see some things change. Some things get busier. People start to take notice. And there are some things on your LinkedIn profile that you can use to track that as well. So that's kind of how it goes from there. So any other questions, Jean?
So those are great 5 tips that we can use to get started with LinkedIn. And I like your idea about starting slow. So getting those 3 things done. I have a routine in my day that first thing in the morning, while I'm standing up and having my oatmeal, I actually take a quick scan through LinkedIn to see what's happening lately. So I'll take a look at those connection requests. I'll take a look at notifications. And, then I routinely take a look at what's in my news feed. What can I share somebody else has created that would be of value to somebody in my connection? So I get that opportunity just to do that quick little thing. And then I've got a more structured marketing plan, if you want, for my social media. But I always make sure that I try and touch LinkedIn at least once a day to be able to offer something of interest to me that I can share with other people who are connected with me.
Those are all really good tips. And I heard something the other day, and again, this is for people who might want to expand their business or expand their reach in the sense that they want to network on LinkedIn. And there are people who think that if I get someone to send out, 50 messages a day for me or whatever, and I start to do it in an automated type of way, that will work. And I say, no, I say, be authentic, be personal. And this phrase was kind of cute, but I will probably, in my world, I will change it up a little bit. But he says, this colleague of mine says, the money is in the mailbox. And it's basically about the magic is in the mailbox. The magic is in you connecting with people, because that's what networking is really all about. So when you do it personally, it becomes more real and people notice that.
Absolutely. And that relates to that relates to your comment about making sure that you can take it offline as soon as it makes sense to.
Right.
So have that message, have that connection, but get their email address so that you can follow up as well. As a business owner, you want to make sure that you are managing your contacts on your platform, not someone else's platform. Even LinkedIn, you don't want to have all your connections there. One other quick piece is that some people will say, well, I don't know what their email address is. But on that connection status on that profile for LinkedIn, many people, not everybody, will actually offer an email address. So make sure
in their
contacts, right? So that's a great way to be able to grab that information. And of course, you can ask them straight up in the messaging. I'd love to be able to continue a conversation with you about this. Can you share your email address with me, or offer to share your email address? Being really transparent and upfront and making it in a really meaningful way is really important.
I actually, because I use a follow-up tool that sends real cards in the mail, I often ask people their mailing address, their real mailing address. And 9 times out of 10, people just give it to me because I've already built rapport across the way with them. But the odd time someone will say, oh, and I'll say, don't worry, I'm not going to spam you with anything. I just like to send cards. And so they give it to me because they're not, nobody gets cards these days. So when they do, it's such a treat. So that kind of endears people a little bit more too.
And you sent a card to me, so it's right here on my desk.
There you go. Exactly. So thank you. Yes.
It's a great way to be able to keep connected. For people just getting started in LinkedIn, you kind of have to get a feeling for the vibe. So creating a profile, and I don't want to suggest that you're lurking, but you're watching and observing and slowly participating to your comfort level is probably a good way to get started. What do you think?
Yes, I think first and foremost, I go back to feel comfortable about your profile actually representing the real you, and that you are comfortable with that. Then, yes, absolutely, you can lurk a little bit, but just know that it really pays off to engage. And it's all of, engagement means, talk to people. So you said something earlier, and I think this is a really good tip for people as well, maybe when they're still lurking. So let's say you were at a conference and you heard a very influential person speak in your field, and you go back and you follow that person on LinkedIn. You might not be able to connect with them directly. Maybe you can, because there are certain limits, like some of the big influencers in personal development, for example, they're over their limit of 30,000 connections. So you can now follow them. But sometimes you might just want to be a follower of that person as well. Either way, if you follow someone who's big in your field, you will also see on their news feed when they post something, you will see all of the other people who follow and engage with them. And they might be your audience. They might be people you want to connect with because you think the same way and you follow the same leaders in that field. And they might be people you want to connect with and have conversation with.
Absolutely. And you can kind of filter that as well. So if you're looking for somebody who's local, maybe you want to develop your career in your hometown where you're currently working. You want to develop the connections with other people who are local. You can identify who those other people might be. And if they like the same people that you like, they're interested in the same topics, those are great people that you might want to connect with.
Mm-hmm. And there are some search parameters and filters that you can use even with the free platform that will help you in that regard as well.
And that's a really important part, is that LinkedIn starts off free, and you can do a lot with LinkedIn without having to pay anything.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't encourage it unless people need to get hold of, people in high places that perhaps wouldn't pay attention otherwise. But as I said, there's 700 million people on LinkedIn, so I'm sure there's enough people to connect with.
Right. Now, getting a LinkedIn profile is important because that's how you get started. And you've shared with us some tips, but I know you've got more to be able to share. So what else could people do to find out more about developing their LinkedIn profile and finding out more from you?
Thanks for asking, Jean. I welcome any of your audience to connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know that they heard our conversation. And if I can be of service, by all means, let's start a conversation. All my contact info is on my LinkedIn profile. They can also look at janiceporter.com, my website. I do offer a free 16-point checklist download, which I know you're going to share with your audience, that they can use to help them get started. If they want my help, then let's talk. I'm happy to work with people. I love working one-on-one with people, most importantly because I can work with them from where they are to where they need to be, but I can also do group training for an office, for a department or whatever, and we can talk about that individually.
Okay.
That help?
That's perfect. So you can connect with Janice on LinkedIn and go to informationmanagers.ca/Janice. And then you can get access to her download for her 16 steps to a fully optimized LinkedIn profile. And Janice, you've also offered to people on the audience here a 20-minute call to assess your current LinkedIn profile if you have one, and even a $50 gift if they sign up for a training package.
Right. My pleasure.
Excellent. So to be able to get that, they just need to connect with you on LinkedIn, mention that they've listened to the podcast here today, and to be able to connect with you and get some help with their LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. I want to make sure that they know you, Jean, and then we'll go from there.
Excellent. So it's super simple. Just go to informationmanagers.ca/Janice, and that will give you a direct link to download, and then you can contact Janice for follow-up and let her know that you listened to the podcast today and that you would like some help with your LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. Look forward to speaking to any of your audience for sure.
Okay. So before you leave the podcast today, I want you to make sure that you do a couple of things. Get on LinkedIn and say hello to Janice and say hello to me. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn if we haven't already done that. Our podcast is available online and on your favorite podcast catcher. So make sure that you share and review this podcast. This is a great way to be able to add content to your LinkedIn profile to say, hey, I just listened to this great podcast about building LinkedIn profile. Grab that URL and put it into your LinkedIn profile and tag me, and I'll help you to reshare that. Janice, any other questions?
No, it's absolutely amazing. And I appreciate being on your podcast today, and look forward to talking to any of the people that once they hear it, connect with me.
Okay. Thank you, Janice. To those clinic managers and healthcare providers, please build your connection on LinkedIn. You really need to have a professional profile, even so that you can make some connections on conferences, or if your boss is looking for somebody to head a new program or a new project, or your volunteer experience. Having that LinkedIn profile is a really important thing for you to do. There's lots that you can build with that if you want to, but get started and make sure that you've got a LinkedIn profile. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to having you come back and join us for Practice Management Nuggets, podcasts and webinars for your healthcare practice. Until next time, this is Jean Eaton. Thank you for joining us today. Did you hear something on today's podcast that you would like to go back and listen to again? Or maybe you heard something on one of our previous podcasts, but you don't remember which one, and you'd like to be able to find it quickly and easily. Well, that's easy to do now. If you heard something on this podcast that you want to revisit, go to practicemanagementnuggets.live/search and enter the keyword in the magic box. You will be brought back to the podcast at the exact spot where we talked about it. This video keyword search tool uses the new Searchy app. If you would like to know more about this, visit informationmanagers.ca/likes-searchy. That's SEARCHIE. I'm excited about this new season, and I'd so appreciate your help to spread the word with your colleagues. First, make sure that you subscribe and add a review on whatever podcast platform that you use. Next, take a screenshot of this episode that you're listening to right now and share it on your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or your preferred social media channel. Remember to tag me and I will reshare your post. When you share the show, it makes it easier for people just like you and who like what you like to find the show. Until next time, this is Jean Eaton, your practice management mentor and your practical privacy coach.